That's it. Good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning Yerushalmi Brachas Perikei, Halacha Gimel, and God willing, starting Halacha Dalit. In the Ois V'Hader's edition, we're learning today Daf Nun Ches. We will start again at the end of Daf Nun Zayin Amid Beis, but at the last word of the first wide line, 4 lines before the bottom of the Amid. We're going to read the story. We're going to read it with the Charedim. The gist is, on one hand, in the Mishnah it says, what are we to do if Bal Tefillah gets confused and he makes a mistake? That we have to remove him, we have to replace him. Actually, we finished yesterday, and we're going to start again today with a statement made in the name of Rabbi Shua ben Levi, that if a Shliach Tzibur, even if he omits, he skips over 2 or 3 brachas of the Shemona Esrei, not only do we not remove him, but he doesn't even have to go back because of Tirchat Tzibura. By the way, this is a din. We're going to read it right now in the Charedim. The Bavli doesn't agree with this, and we pass on like the Bavli. But we're learning now Yerushalmi. So that's where we left off yesterday. We're going to go weiter on Daf Nun Ches Amud Aleph to point out that Rabbi Shua ben Levi made a statement, a categorical statement, that a Bal Tefillah, Shliach Tzibur, omits 2 or 3 brachas. He doesn't have to go back and to restate them. And that's not, there's a Braisa that actually writes that that's not always the case. So we're going to learn there are some exceptions, according to the Tana and the Braisa, that if he omits, he's kicked out of the Amid. He has to be replaced because we should be suspicious that this person is a min, or this person is a heretic. Now, mi'inyan le'inyan, we're going to speak about what should one do if one has a doubt if they omitted Ya'aleh V'Yavai during the times that we have to say Ya'aleh V'Yavai in the Shemona Esrei. B'Hashgacha Pratis, we are learning this towards the end of the month of Kislev, Tavshin Pei Daled. We just started last night to say the same Talamat al-Bracha, and there's going to be a correlation between the din that we're going to learn in the Gemara and what should someone do, for example, if they daven Ma'ariv, they daven Shachris, and they have a doubt if they said the same Talamat al-Bracha or not. And by the way, if a person did not say the same Talamat al-Bracha in the winter, right, once they finish Shemona Esrei, they have to repeat the Shemona Esrei. But that is if they know they didn't say it. What do you do if you have a suffix? The Gemara is going to speak today about Ya'aleh V'Yavai. We're going to go back to the Mishnah that if a person gets confused and he doesn't know how to continue when he is replaced. So where is he replaced from? Not from the beginning of the Shemona Esrei, but from the beginning of the bracha. If he got confused at the end of that bracha, the new Shliach Tzibur has to go back to the beginning of that bracha. And similarly, we're going to learn what happens if a Bal Koida is reading, and for whatever reason he cannot continue reading. So we have a new Bal Koida. From where do they go back? Same question. From the same pasuk, from the beginning of the parsha, really from the Sedra. Do they go back to the beginning of that kriya? It has to do with the brachas that we have to make when we're called to the Torah post. Pre and post, as we will learn. We're going to learn about whether 2 people can read the Torah at the same time, whether 2 people can say the Targum at the same time. Today kala yeah mishtama, today kala loy mishtama, as we will learn. We're going to learn a little details also about this concept that we began yesterday, that when you're called to daven for the Amid, that you're not allowed to run right away. You have to refuse. On the other hand, you cannot overly refuse. So there's like the right balance. And there's a beautiful expression that we will learn today about 3 things, that too much is not good and too little is not good. The emes is that in everything in life, too much is not good, too little is not good. The Rambam writes exceptions in the Deis, but ein chanamakim. Okay. Now, we're going to go in the next Mishnah, on Daf Nun Ches Amud Beis. We're going to learn about certain amens that the Shliach Tzibur should dafka not say lemashal when it comes to Birchas Kohanim. And as we'll see from Amor Lahem by Birchas Kohanim, we learn from it many things, including that one should be makri to the Kohanim mila b'mila, as we know, so that the Kohanim don't just get up and give the bracha. The Shliach Tzibur says, Yivarechacha. By the way, many people, after the first one, don't say, we're not going to get into it right now. There's not going to be enough time. Hashem, Yishmerecha, Yishmerecha. The Shliach Tzibur should not say Amen, because he might get confused and not know where to continue, from Yael or from Yisa. And from that, we're going to go to what amens does one not say when they make their own bracha. And that is the rule. You don't make an amen after your own bracha, but there are certain amens that you will say, even though you're the one that's reciting the bracha. That's going to be more or less all of the topics that we will touch upon on Daf Nun Ches. So let's start on Daf Nun Zayin Amud Beis. I know we learned this yesterday. I want to reread the Gemara and read the Charedim, which is Gavaldik. Says the Gemara, Rav Acha and Rav Yudah ben Pazi were once Yaspin. They were sitting bechat kenishna in a Beis HaKnesses. They were sitting in a shul. And Osei Avar Chad Kumei Tevus. One person went and he davened. And was a geshen va'ashker chad bracha. Va'ashker means he omitted. He pushed it. He jumped over the whole bracha. So Asun v'shailon let up Simen. What was the question? Now there's really two questions for that. Maybe he should be kicked out. Maybe not kicked out. Maybe he should be replaced. Oh yeah, you use the word kicked out, whatever you want. And if not, does he have to go back? And we learned enough before in the Yerushalmi, there's a Seder, there's a rhyme and a reason to all of the Seder of the Shemona Esrei. If you're going to go back, like what will that do? So Amar Loin Absimin. And you quoted Rabbi Shua ben Levi, and this is a categorical statement. Rabbi Shua ben Levi made no exceptions. Shliach Tzibur, Shehishkin, even Shtayim, even Shalish Brachos, if he omitted 2 or 3, Ein Machzirin Oisoi. Wow, now we started this to learn the Charedim. So you got it. It's a big Charedim. It takes up half of the Amid. Shehishkin. So first of all, Pershu Hatur and the Rashba. That what does Hishgir mean? That we're talking about shots is a Shliach Tzibur. Shedileg. Our Mishnah was speaking about the Shliach Tzibur who Pashat got confused. Let's use the words Emas the Tzibura. We're going to have those words later. Some people are, they get very afraid of or anxious, or they freeze when it comes to public speaking. At Shaykh, a person is so not comfortable to lead the davening. Some people have that in the middle they just can't go on. Or there's other, whatever. That's the Mishnah. Here, no. Shedilek. He skipped. You don't make him go back. And by the way, that's only the Shliach Tzibur. Because Yerushalmi soiver, yeshefresh ben yochel Shliach Tzibur. Now, underline Yerushalmi. Says the Racharedim, and because of a Gos Maimonides, Perek Hasidim Hilchos Tefillah. And first of all, the reason for that is Tircha de Tzibur. But the Rambam and the Smag and the Rashba, B'tshuva Kasvu or Savri, the Leis Alahai Yerushalmi, we don't paskin like this Yerushalmi. Why don't we paskin? Because the Talmud Abavli Lechilik Ben Yochel Shliach Tzibur. It's not like the Bavli writes Befedush different. In the Bavli, they speak about you have to go back. And no such a difference is made. So remember, this link will be important for something we're going to learn in the Charedim Anun Ches Amud Aleph. This Yerushalmi we don't pass like. Well, that's a Yerushalmi. That you have to replace him. No, that guy got confused. He became mute in it. Is noimi boy, and not only that's where we left off yesterday, and now let's start on Daf Nun Ches Amud Aleph. So says the Gemara, that very nice that you quoted noch B'Shem Rabbi Shua ben Levi, but we in the Yerushalmi Ashkach Tana Upalig, we found a brayso that argues. By the way, Rabbi Shua ben Levi is the Amoida. The Tana, no, Rabbi Shua ben Levi cannot argue with the Tana. It's like a kasha on him. You can't make such a statement because there's a Tana that argues with this statement. Now, not fully, partially. Lakoil ein machzir noise. The Braisa, also not brought on the Bavli, is saying that you don't make him go back if he omitted, but chutz, but there's an exception. What's the exception? Listen to this. Mi shaloi amar b'chaya hames. If he omitted, the Machaya Mes. Or Umachni Azedin, which is what we call the Valam Al-Shinim. Or Boina Yerushalayim. Guys, let's remember that Yerushalmi, we already learned this twice. In the Yerushalmi, there isn't a standalone bracha est samach. The Yerushalayim Ircha is a prayer and a bakasha, both for the building of the Beis Hamikdash and for the coming of Mashiach. Beda. A guy omitted it. So says the Braisa that if he did that, it's not pshat that we make him go back. Much worse than that. You know what we say? He omitted it on purpose. Why would he omit it? Ani omit that he's a min. He's an apikoides. He's an heretic. And therefore, you have to remove him. And you have to replace him. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And 1 second. Look inside the top of Charedim. It's behemshach to what we paskin. That chutz v'mishol yamar mechayim mesim v'chulei. The b'shloisha elu machzidin. Now the words machzidin, not only means machzidin, that he has to repeat it. No. We kick him out and we bring someone new, and the new guy has to repeat it. Now, the im shakacha v'lo yada lachzid im amtinun leklal. And if the guy gets confused, you don't wait. You don't have it. Now, this is beautiful. So, because of Atur, that Yerushalmi zeh afalgav that we just mentioned, that we don't pass like the beginning of the sugi. Because that when it says in the Bible that the words ein malin means ein maviren oisoi chutz meber chasaminim. That statement we have in the Babli, so what is the Babli saying? That if the Shliach Tzibur skips V'lam al Shinim, you tell him to leave. You tell him, you kick him off the Amid. Now, if you read that Babli, what does it sound like? That's the only bracha. Chutz meber chasaminim. So says the Tur, from our Yerushalmi, learn that the chutz in the Babli doesn't only mean that. It also means Machaya Mesim and Bayin Yerushalayim. For the same logic. In other words, we do paskin like this Yerushalmi, but again, these three. Even though the Babli only mentions one, and the Babli says the words chutz, so he quotes the klal that we know that ein lemedim min haklalois afilu b'makim shenemar by chutz. That's a sugi we have in Kedushin. Is when Chazal say this is the rule. Chutz from one exception, don't think that's the only exception. Even though it says there's a rule, you already gave an exception. If there would have been two exceptions, why didn't you mention both exceptions? We don't say that. We don't have to write all of the exceptions. Every rule has an exception. So even though in the Bible it only says chutz meber chasaminim, beautiful. It's not just that. It's chutz minim b'chaya mesim and b'nei Yerushalayim. Now a story. Shmuel HaKatan. Who is Shmuel HaKatan? Guys, do you remember? Shmuel HaKatan is the Tana that actually instituted the bracha of Elam al Shinim. He was the one that said that you have to say it every time you say Shemona Esrei. So look at what happened. He was Avar Kometevo, so he was once davening for the Amid, and he himself, Ashkar Machnia Zaydim. Now, Basoifa, we're learning the Gemara one way, the way Rabbi Artschool learned the Gemara, and then we're going to make a big change, which probably, there's another way of learning it. So the simple way is Besoifa Shari Mashkev Alei. At the end, after he omitted it, he himself says, "Oh my God!" Like he didn't say those words. He looked at the oilam to see if they're going to remove him, and he would have been removed. So Amin and Lady told him, "No, no, we're not going to be choshed you." So when you said Vala that it's harsh, of course it's harsh. He was the one that made the tefillah. So they were not going to remove. I mean, the Pnei Moshe. They didn't think the Vadai Adam Kamoischa ein lachshed oisavekach. Now, who says Rabbi Yochanan Kohen Gadol was a Kohen Gadol for how many years, guys? For 80 years, and he became a apikoides. So let's reread this Gemara different. That Shmuel HaKatan over Kametevusa va'ashker machnia zaydim besoifa. Now put the comment. He began it. He began the prayer. He got confused in the middle of the prayer. That's why they let him there. That's another way of learning. That's not the way the Pnei Moshe learns. In other words, here the pshat will be is that we're machalik. If you skip the whole bracha, maybe you're a min. I don't care who was davening.
Even if the Talmud were, you think the first time they think you did it for Shabbat, as opposed to
I love it that at 6:30 in the morning, Vlad is filled with compassion and love that he's struggling with this. You're not struggling. I mean, the thing is, if a person omits one of these things, that you say the hadas, you tell the person, could be you believe, could be you don't believe. Okay, let's go right. Now, Chevre, was the sign, if you have a suffix, Yalav. So Rabbi Yaakov bar Acha, in the name of Rab Shimon bar Abba, in the name of Rabbi Loza, suffix Hisker Shol Rosh suffix Hisker. So the din is Machzir and Oisoi. Now let me just say like this. Aleph is if a person knows for sure that they forgot Yalav. I'm not going into the Pasha, there's not enough time. You know, sometimes you only go back to the Tzei. If you finish Moina Esrei, you go back to the beginning. The one exception, stop, is Rosh Chodesh, Ma'ariv. Even Cholamoyed Ma'ariv, you repeat Moina Esrei. Okay, but that's when you Vadai forgot it. Here you have a doubt whether you forgot it. Now, what is the rule? Even the Shita, that Tefillah every day is Doiraisa, the Nusach HaTefillah. Right, this mani atfila lukula alma is midrabanan. What's the normal rule? Safik derabanan lukula. So why would you have to repeat it? You have a doubt. Safik derabanan lukula. I mentioned in the intro. It's mamash what's happening right now. We just began with Saint Talamat Lavracha, which has a similar din. Many details. Do you say just the Saint Talamat Lavracha? Did you finish the bracha? Did you begin to Kabbalah Shofar? Say Shema Leinu? Once you finish Shemona Esrei, you got to repeat it. Do you have a suffix? You have to repeat Shemona Esrei. Why? Because that's the rule, that when you are habituated and davening every day the way we should be, until 30 days go by, which is 90 tefillos, the Chassam Sofer actually writes it's 101. Because you have Rosh Chodesh, which has Musaf, you have Shabbos, which has Musaf, he has all his cheshbonos. Until a certain number goes by, we say, if you have a doubt, mistama, big mistama, you said what you were familiar in saying until now. So if you have a doubt whether you said Yalav or not, you didn't say it, and therefore you have to go back. Now the question is, to where do you have to go back? I mean, that's the connection to our topic. So Shimon Barva, in the name of Rabbi Yechanan, says that will be learned above. It depends where you remember. But if he didn't take the 3 steps back, you have to go back to the beginning of that bracha. And we just learned also yesterday that all of the final 3 brachas, like the first 3 brachas, are 1 unit. 1 unit means you go back to the beginning of that bracha. Where do you go back to the beginning of it? Let's say. And now 2 details in this concept of Akaras Ragov. Question number 1. Amr Rabbi Yehuda ben Pazi. What happens? He's making a statement. You see, Achdaas. If a person didn't yet take the 3 steps back, he did not take the 3 steps back, but he, in his mind, finished saying Shemona Esrei. He finished. His mind wandered off, but because in his mind he didn't take that 3 steps are detailed. That is Kimisha Akarag. And if after you are Masiyach Das or Akar Raglov, it's Lav Dafka. It means in your mind you ended Shemona Esrei. That is a statement. The question is, what about the Ilan Tacha Nunaya? What happens if you took the 3 steps back? But guys, when we take 3 steps back, we're not done yet. Then what happens if you remember there? So once he established Rabbi Yehuda ben Pazi that Akar Raglov doesn't mamish mean Akar Raglov. You can already be finished after Shemona Esrei prior to Akar Raglov. Maybe you can be in the Shemona Esrei post Akar Raglov if you are still in the middle of saying your Yiratzah. Maybe that's not considered ending Shemona Esrei. And look, guys, get used to the Yerushalmi. That was his question. And he says, Tzricha. Tzricha means it requires further investigation. In the Babli, this would have been 2 lines. This is 1-liner. If you are middle of Tachnun, and he leaves it with the suffix. Maybe you don't have to go back to the beginning, only go back to the tzei. Okay. Says the Gemara. Rabbi Abba, the son of Rabbi Chia bar Abba, in the name of Rabbi Chia, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Let's make a correlation between the Baal Tefillah, who makes a mistake, who gets confused, who has to be removed, who has to be replaced, And the Mishnah's point was when you replaced about tefillah, not to the beginning of the Shemona Esrei, but not to the word where the confusion. If he got confused in the middle of Ashiva Shavteinu, he has to go back to the beginning of Ashiva Shavteinu. Same thing will be with the reading of the Torah. Another quick thing that nowadays you have a so-called Bal Qaeda. Say so-called because the Bal Qaeda never reads good enough. But he reads on behalf of the person who got called up. In the times of Chazal, if you were called to the Torah, you read it. Same question. What happens if you're called to the Torah and you're reading, and in the middle, you get confused to the point where you can't go weiter. And by the way, that's really the reason why everyone corrects the Bal Qaeda is they're trying to do that. They're trying to get you to a point where you get so frustrated that you have to be replaced. Now, the question is, now here there's another nuance. The other nuance is like this, as we'll see, which is something phenomenal. Even though we make 3 Birchas HaTorah in the morning, 3. Then we learn Torah Shabbat, then we learn Torah Shabbat. When you're called to the Torah, you make a bracha, Asher Barach Arbanu prior, and you make the Asher Nas Almanu post. So that's connected to the question, or to his statement. That you are the reader. You got the Aliyah, and you're the reader. Then the Shtatek means you cannot continue reading for whatever reason. You lost your voice. So you have to be replaced. So the one who will replace them, listen guys, has to go back to the beginning. Not to the middle, but to the beginning. And the key is, when we had this in the Bavli, the Rabbeinu Yoina says in the Bavli, not go back to the beginning. Go back and make the bracha prior. That's the ikk. Go back to the beginning of you got Shishi. The whole aliyah. The chiddush is not back to the beginning of the parsha, of the sedra, but to the beginning, and you make the bracha prior again. That's the key over here. The im amar at mimakam shepasak. Because why do you have to go back to the beginning? Because if you're going to say was feel, he got stuck in pasuk chaf, in middle of pasuk chaf. So go back to the beginning of pasuk chaf. Why do you have to go back all the way to the beginning of that aliyah? Then there's going to be a problem with the bracha. So then the one who was the reader who made the bracha prior is not going to make the bracha post, which is not okay. If you won't have to go back to the beginning, it's a given. That's amazing. It's a given that if you continue from that pasuk, you won't make a new bracha. We're not machalik whether you're 3 psukim before the end, whether or not it's a given. It's a unit. If you don't have to go back to the beginning, you're a hemshech. If you're a hemshech, it's given this. Then you don't have to begin with the bracha. You're soymech on the bracha that the guy that prior to him becoming mute read. That's a given. We don't do that. Why? That's so. So the new guy who's beginning from where if that would have been the case, he's going to make a bracha post. And that's not acceptable. Why is that not acceptable? Oh, I'll tell you what. It says in Tehillim Kapitel Yutes, Tcheiras Hashem, Tamima. And then it's Meshivas Nafesh. You know what's amazing? What does Tamima mean? Tamima means it's completed how? By brachas. How beautiful are these chazals? We didn't learn this in the Yerushalmi. You know, Tamima means that whenever the Torah is read, bracha prior, bracha post. Look inside the Pnei Moshe, a few lines before the end of the narrow Pnei Moshes. That Tamima v'goymer shetehei kol Tamima b'birchoiseh Hashem evarchen oleh v'hilkach tzarech sheyaschol mimakam sheyischol arishoin, and only then v'oz yivarach tchila b'soif. And now v'nimsor kol hapsukim this baruch l'fnei v'lachreya. Guys, this is gavaldik. No, let's think about this, right? In other words, we always emphasize. And Chassidus emphasizes that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. Shalei Baruch B'Torah Tchila. Shalei Baruch B'Torah means is that God forbid to take away the understanding that Torah is connecting us to God, that it's the Ratzon Hashem, Torah Secha. But when we learn about now Chanukah is coming, how many Maimarim? All the Maimarim are about this, but that's all emphasizing the bracha prior. What's beautiful here in the Yerushalmi is like you have to make a bracha at the end also. You can begin with God in mind, and you can get so carried away with the beauty of the Chachma, with the sweetness of the Chachma, you weiter can forget about God. You have to conclude it with the bracha. Okay, weiter. Oh, So chapt that it's shaykh. That by the way, this is a good thing for a gab. I just realized, Danny, you see in Lubavitch we don't add kriyas 7 with them after 8. So what happens if you have to give another person an aliyah to save the gabbai? See, I'm the balkoida sometimes. That's me and you have a good solution. I get confused. I become muted. It's different. Maybe it's different nowadays. But that would be a great solution.
That what?
I'm saying if you have to give another person an aliyah, so according to this Yerushalmi, you become muted in middle.
Just kick that guy in the middle and then replace it with another one? That's what you're saying? I don't think he'll be so happy with that one.
I don't think it works nowadays. I take it all back. Okay, let's go back. Because we have a part of the Torah that was read twice. That's what's going to happen. Because they read until Pasuk Chav, and then they're going to read it again until Pasuk Chav. So now that we're speaking about reading something twice, how about having 2 people read at the same time? I'm just explaining the link. So Tane, we learned in a Braisa that even though only one is metargem. One is metargem, as we said yesterday, that in the times of Chazal, the way the Torah was read is that one read from the Torah, Pasuk, and he stopped, and then the person who knew the Targum by heart would say the Targum. So even if only one is saying the Targum, you can't have 2 people reading at the Torah at the same time. Says that Ashadilio, afilu she'echad metargem ein koil echad. Oise sho'emen liktas v'Torah. Ve'ein shliach tzibur koil imoi. Only one person reads. By the way, nowadays, when the person who gets the aliyah gets called up, he has to read silently. He has to read silently. But for the oilam, one person is reading. And why is that? Because of the klal, right? That today, that people cannot hear 2 voices at the same time, which is not always the case, as we'll see in a moment. Thank God we don't translate anymore. We have English Chumash. You know how long Kriyas Torah will take? Yeah. You know how much talking there is, the way it is now already? Okay. Oh, here we go. Why not? I said it right. I got ahead of myself. No, not because of today. No. The reason is bracha. That's it. That's his reason. What's bracha? That only one person is allowed to make the bracha. How can you have 2 people reading? For read, we just said the reader has to make the bracha prior and post, and only one person makes the bracha. So not shaykh to have 2 people reading. So the Gemara right away says, if that would be the reason, it can't be the reason, because we also learned in the Braisa that also you can't have a case where one person reads and 2 people are saying the targum at the same time. Now, in the one who said targum did not make the bracha. The metargum doesn't make a bracha. So it's not because you have a bracha issue. Today, are words of the Babli. Here in the Yerushalmi is she'ein shnei koilos nichnasim l'toich oizen achas. 2 voices don't go into the same ear, even though they're saying the same thing at the same time. But you have to. They're speaking at the same time. They're speaking at the same time. No. 2 balkoides or 2 metargim. Reading simultaneously, you're not hearing not the voice of Reuven nor the voice of Shimon. What you're hearing is afamishums. You're not hearing 2 distinct voices. So David is asking, how did it about? We learned this in the Babli. That why don't we have today the Balkoya making the bracha? Because what we are doing nowadays, is actually 2 people are reading at the same time. The guy that gets called up has to read, but he's not reading loud because he doesn't know he's copying the voice of the Balkoya. And only one person makes a bracha, so the oila gets the bracha. The Balkoya is the shliach for him. Now let's go weiter. We learned in a Braisa that not everyone agrees with it. That actually shnayim, yes, koydem batoydem. 2 people are allowed to read at the same time. It's only the ein shnayim aftirim and navi. By navi not. Why not? Amar Avul, I'll tell you why not. because koroyos, the word koroyos means familiar. That when do we say trei kol Elohim mishtame if you're not familiar with what you are listening to? Being that this is the standard, and everyone knew the whole Chamisha Chumshei Torah, everyone is familiar with. Everyone was called up, everyone read it. Since everyone was familiar with the Torah, you can listen to two voices, you can hear two at the same time. But since ve'ein koroyas b'navi, because in Cheder we don't teach Navi, don't think it's our generation. But already then, Cheder you teach Mishnayos. Navi, somehow, learn it on your own at some point. No one knows it, as well as they know the Chumash. That's where we say you can't hear it properly. This is a big statement. Let's go back. The guys, it's late. The next thing we had on the Mishnah is that when
it's interesting, just because like who really listens to Navi? I guess the Haftarah, but like a lot of people read their own Haftarah anyhow.
No, but only one person is reading it out loud. Don't have two people reading out loud. Why would we have two people again? Because the Gabbai forgot to give the guy who has yard site, and he called up someone else. And so the solution then might have been they both go together, like on Simchas Torah. Call them together. Let them read together. It's kibudim. You can't do that.
I'm just pointing out that most people are not so medoik to listen to the reader. They read it themselves in a lot of places.
That's nowadays in some shuls. Most people leave the shuls to a kiddush club. They don't listen at all. You're talking about what we're learning how it should be, not what you know how it is.
Okay,
we're making a big tikkun over here. No, they got up there and they read Banavi and everyone listened. Very good. So Rabbi Chaim is making a good point. That the fact that Kaddish is said by many people at the same time, aside of it giving a big nachas to the Eibush, that if you hear a Kaddish, the way it said over here, God has nachas. The question is, first of all, do you have to hear it? Do we have to hear the Torah? I don't know. Maybe it's more about the one saying Kaddish. Who says it's about you hearing the Kaddish? But if it's about you hearing the Kaddish, because everyone knows the Kaddish, that's a very good point. Okay, right. When the Baal Tefillah has to be replaced, then the new Shliach Tzibur should not be a refuser. That he was asked to go right away. Rabbi Shua from the south says like this: there are three things. Ruban umeyutan ra, in excess up, in excess down. In excess up means too much of it. In excess down means too little of it. It's ra. Only ubein noin nisam yafa. What are the three? So'ir, yeast, melach, and salt, and haserov, and refusing when you're asked to daven for the amid. How great is that? And by the way, in the Bavli, if you remember this, the Gemara puts two of them together. That if a person accepts right away when he's told go for the amid, it's like eating food without any salt. The refusal, it's gevura. The refusal is the salt. No. Please go. So if you refuse too much, it's like you put too much salt on the steak. Now, so how does it work? So there's a system. Listen to it. But chila, the first time you ask, so, oh no, misarif. You asked again, ma'amim. Ma'amim means it's like when there is a fire being lit, but there's no flame yet, which means you're starting to get up. You're saying no with your mouth, but your body is saying yes. Ubashlishi, look at the Gemara, it's the laugh, rutz. Now, by the way, why are you rutzing? Because of Tichad Tzibur. It's so good. The Persians stole another thing from us that David is familiar with. Huh? Then they do it. They're so good at this. So when they invite you to a simcha, the whole thing is a sheker. Everything is a sheker. The smile is a sheker. The refusal is, and then they come and they take not a doggy bag, they take a beer bag. Let's go weiter. That was there we go, a cart. It says the Gemara, either Rav Chuna or go with Rabbi Eliezer. I hope I don't get fired by someone. Have a Yosef, and there's so many amazing Persians. This is just the one. Yes, I am. Yes, we are. It's terrible. Rabbi, I apologize. It's terrible. Yeah, you have to do tshuva for that. Rabbi Eliezer have a Yosef Echad Kanesh. He's sitting in a shul. And also Chazara, the word Chazan here means the Gabbai. Mamash, Shliach Tzibur is what we call a Chazan. Chazan means the one that's in charge of making sure that you go to the Amid. And what he did was, Va'atrach al Chadiyel. He was, Atrach means he was harassing someone. Go, the guy said no. Go, the guy said no. And he was bimatrich. And at the end, he didn't go. At the end, the Misarvan, the one who did not go, he went to Rabbi Eliezer. And Amar Le, and he told to Rabbi Eliezer, Lo yichas Marielai, don't be angry with me. I mean, we learned that that Misarvan, but by the third time, that's been game. Don't be angry, because begin to loy havena mit arlei olis. Beautiful. I was not aroused. I was not inspired. I didn't want to lead the tefillah if I didn't feel connected. In other words, when we say that you should go by the third time, that's when really it's shaykh to you, but don't go right away. But some people can say, I'm not in the mood of going. And not only that, Rabbi Eliezer not only agreed with him, Amarle, Allah, I was never angry at you. I was angry at the Gabbai. Ela al hodein da atrach. The Gabbai, the Chazan should have had that sense, that sensitivity. When you ask someone and they say no, you have to sense what is the no. The Persians are good at this. In other words, when you get that culture, in other words, you have to know that sometimes no is because there's an etiquette. Sometimes no means yes. Elamai, you can't say yes, so you say no. But sometimes no is the person doesn't want to go. If the person doesn't want to go, don't think that that's not nice. He didn't want to go. He should have given you space. How great is that? Okay. Now, in the Mishnah we learned about Shemona Esrei. We have to get moving. What Shemona Esrei? That when he's replaced, the new Shliach Tzibur goes back to the beginning of that bracha. We're going to speak about not a replacement that happens in the middle of Shemona Esrei, a replacement that happened in the middle of Birchas Kriya Shema, and that's the story. Everything is stories. Betitai says that Pnei Moshe Shem Echad. His name. Titai was a Baltfila. And Ishtatak, and he became muted, means he was unable. He couldn't. Emad the Tzibura, he got a panic attack. He became hoarse. Where? Be'oifanayo. Voifanim. In other words, he was in the middle of the Birchas Yetzirah. Kaddish, Kaddish, Kaddish was said that everyone said it. He responded to it. Right? Then Voifanim, B'chayis HaKodesh, in the middle, that's where he was unable to speak. So what's the question? He has to be replaced. Of Birchas Yetzirah. Voifanim, you don't have in Kedusha. Voifanim, B'chayis HaKodesh, B'rashko, no, was in the middle of Kaddish and Baruch. So what's the Shaila? When he was replaced, do you go back to where you're up to? Or do you go back to the beginning? Now, in our Mishnah, we learned you don't go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei, but you go back to the beginning of that bracha. Based on that, you go back to the beginning of the Yetzirah. So, also, the Shaila l'Rabbi Avon, Rabbi Avon b'Shem Rishon ben Levi, don't go back to the beginning. That Zesho ever Tachtov, the one who was replacing the Titai, right? Yaschil l'makem shepasa. Just begin the Haifana v'Chayis HaKodesh. After all of the chazanas that went until then, the Olam had no koyach to hear the whole thing again. That's not why I'm just kidding. So Amr and so they asked him, did we not learn in our Mishnah that when you replace a Shliach Tzibur, go back to the beginning of that bracha? Maschil habracha, maschil habracha shetazeh. In other words, you should begin with your Yetzirah. To which Rav Avon responded, Amar loin. No. Listen to words, guys. Mikivan da anesun kedushta, since the Shliach Tzibur and the Tzibur, they said Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Therefore, Kimi Shohu Tchilas Bracha. For this din, that is like the pinnacle of the Yetzirah. Once you said that, Voifana v'Chayis HaKodesh is mamash like a new bracha for this din. Kimi Shohu Tchilas Bracha. How great is that? Now, 1 second. Now, the only thing is like this. The Charedim has a nuance. And what's the noise in the Charedim? And the Charedim he learns, unlike we learned it, he says, Oifanaya means the Oilam said Voifanim, you said Baruch Kavod Hashem Im Kaimai, and that's where Titai got confused. Look inside the last Charedim before the Mishnah. They keep in the Anitun that from the words Lokeil Baruch, Hava Ketchilas Bracha Acheres. And that's a big difference how you learn Pshat over here. And I'll tell you more, Api Chasidus, because Kadosh is going up, is Ratzah, right? Baruch is Shuv. The Kavanah of Ratzah is Shuv. Because if the Kavanah is Ratzah, then you can, then the Pshat would be that once you said Kadosh, like, that's it, Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. No, the Kavanah is Baruch Hashem. After you said Baruch Hashem, now it's as if you're starting a new bracha. Okay, guys, we have to move on. These are big statements. What's the next mission? So it's all the Hemshech about Tefillah gets confused. When he gets confused, he has to be replaced. So the Mishnah is saying, don't do certain things that might confuse the Baal Tefillah. What might confuse the Baal Tefillah? Says the Mishnah. And what's happening? We have over here from a Medrash. I'll find it in one of the Noisei Kelim that when it says Amoir Lohem, a Medrash Rabbi the Charedim brings it. Says the Charedim, that when the Birchas Kahanim is given, it's not given by the Kahanim just getting up and saying the words. You know, today you have a minhag by a wedding, by a bar mitzvah, by whatever, you say nice. But when it's done properly in the davening, the Shliach Tzibur says a word, and then the Kohen or the Kahanim repeat. So you're going back and forth. During that back and forth, the Shliach Tzibur should not answer Amen. Why? Because he might get confused. He's going to say the word Amen. They didn't have a siddur written. He won't know whether you're Yiso or you're Yoel. And then he'll get confused. Don't do that. Ella, no, 1 second. Another did regarding confusion. That im ein sham kohen Elahu. He's the only kohen in the shul. How great is that? So the din is lo yisakapa. He should not. There should be no birchas kahanim. Says the Charedim. The shema lo yuchal lachs lo tefillah lo daas lechaven lo lahaschol sim shalom. He'll get confused. He won't say sim shalom. How great is that? But for that, says the Mishnah. Hold on, that's not fair. The im haftachasai shunoises kapov. If he knows that he could do it, and still v'chayzer l'tfilasai, that he can return to his sim shalom, if he knows that he won't get confused, rishoi, he's allowed to do it. And so paskins the Shulchan Aruch that now that we have a siddur, if the Shliach Tzibur is the only kohen, he will give birchas kahanim, and then he'll look inside, and that's ki'ilu in the times of the Mishnah that he's haftachasai shunoises kapov v'chayzer, because today you have a siddur. Yeah, we'll go to the details soon. Let's start learning the Gemara. Let's today we replace. We'll speak about that tomorrow. Let's keep on reading over here. Tani, we learned the Tosefta Megillah. Hapoida Shema. This I just want to cover this. Hapoida Shema is a big machlekes. Let's go machlekes Rambam and Rav. That's very big, and the Rash Shadilio uses our Yerushalmi to prove that the Rambam is right and the Rav is wrong. The Rav learns Poidas Shema is that you had 10 people that daven b'yechidus. They daven the Rav, but there was no kedusha, there was no baruch Hu. So what you do is you want for people to say Kaddish and Baruch Hu, but to justify it, this is the Ravid, they would say Kaddish, Baruch Hu, and the first bracha of the two brachas prior to Shema. So, and that's the way the Ravid teaches the words Poidas, Prusa, half of the brachas prior. The Rambam doesn't learn that way. The Rambam is learning Poidas Shema means that you have a person who's davening for everyone else, and he's saying Kaddish and Baruch Hu, and he's saying out loud for everyone else the Birchas Kriya Shema. It means davening like a Shliach Tzibur does when there's a minyan on behalf of everyone. This will fit with the Rambam, says the Rashirilio, as we'll see in a moment. We're speaking about the Poidas Shema is making both brachas. That's it. Poidas Shema. Or v'ho'ever lifnei hateva, which is what you call the Shliach Tzibur repeating the loud Shema Esrei. Or v'hanoises kappa, the Kohanim, or the Kohen who's giving Birchas Kohanim. Or v'hakoida batoida, or v'hamafti benavi. Okay, that what? Or v'hamavarech al achas mikol mitzvah batoida. So in all of them, you have the following klal. Lo yana acharatz yamein. Don't answer amen. The one who says it should not answer amen. And not only that, and if he said amen, he's abur, he's an ignoramus. Hold on. Says the Gemara that you should know. You're right. That's the version of one version in the Tosefta Megillah. But the and so either it's a machlokes tanoim, says the Yerushalmi, Amar Abchiz, that's not a machlokes tanoim. That man the Amar hadeiza chacham, it's ba'oina basoif. Ba'oina basoif means whenever there is a series of brachas, and when you finish the last of the series, then you do answer amen, which would be the way the Sfardim do it by sim shalom, by the Baal Tefillah. Amarach es Am Yisrael b'shalom amen. The Shliach Tzibur says. The way we do it at the end of Bnei Yerushalmi and benching, because the Atayva Meita came 1,000 years later. Amen. And let's go back to the Rashirilio. That Dafka the Ramam is right. That Peiras Hashemah doesn't mean one, means two. Two means both brachas prior to the Shema. We don't pasken this way. But Aboiched, Ba'am Yisrael Bi'ah Amen. And by the way, he goes into a hefsek. And that would mean that these two brachas. No, we're saying that the meaning of Peiras Hashema doesn't mean the way that Ravid says it. It means only the first bracha. Peiras Hashema means that someone who's leading the tefillah and saying it out loud for everyone else, and it goes to both. But that you don't do. Don't answer amen after your own bracha. Guys, we'll stop over here to be continued. Wow.